I'll get things going at 5 past, and then so for those joining us and those who are catching the recording, I'm Henry Yort, head up Asia Pacific for Mail Manager, and we've kindly got Ian McKnight joining us. So Ian, I'll let you just give a brief introduction to yourself.
My name is Ian McKnight. I work for a structural engineering consultancy. We're doing a lot of structural stuff and some civil and fire supporting works. And we've had Mail Manager on board for coming up 6 months, I think, something like that. So plenty of time to have a fiddle and check it out and make some decisions about its utility.
Great, thank you. We'll obviously coming back to Ian. I think most people are here to listen to him rather than me, so I will keep my part to a minimum. So just in terms of the agenda, bit of time from myself just going through the challenges some of our clients face with email, then handing over to Ian, who will talk about Batchelar McDougall's implementation. I guess what it was like before they implemented, what it's like now. As he said, used it for 6 months. So, there, will be, I guess it's enough time to start seeing some of the benefits. And then at the end, I'll discuss the implementation process, which Ian will probably touch on as well in his part, and then have a Q&A at the end. So I'm sure you have some questions for Ian. And we'll do our best to get through those. So keeping moving, what made you attend today? So I'm just going to launch this poll, and I'll just wait for the responses from everyone. So we've got 3 options here. We're always interested to know why people are tuning into this. Some might have seen Mail Manager before, others interested to hear from one of our clients. So most debating whether to implement, some interested in change management. So thanks for that. Keeping things moving. So just for me to go over a couple of points, key concerns that firms in the built environment face in terms of email. Where does email expose risk or challenge? So sometimes commercially sensitive information isn't shared, and it's left in people's inboxes, which can make it tricky when requiring access to it. This can become particularly frustrating when people leave a company or go on holiday, as another staff member may need to see a conversation on what's happening on a project. Because 80% of communication in the workplace is via email, it's important decisions or changes may be left in one's inbox. An email is never deemed as important until you have to go back and find it. So there can be a lack of consistency. You might have someone who's an amazing filer and someone else who's not quite as good. This lack of consistency often means that all relevant project information isn't being logged in a structured fashion. So what happens in reality? Where am I? Yep. So so often that needle in a haystack email can be found, but by that point you may have spent a large amount of time looking when it could have been spent doing fee earning work. Time is money for a lot of our clients as consultants, and a lack of email management may lead to an embarrassing situation with a client if it's taken hours to find one key email, or if a change was made on a project via email and no one was aware of it because it wasn't filed centrally. You may have spent months or longer building a relationship with a client, and that may be tainted if you're unable to present that one crucial email. IT managers may have an unnecessarily big workload if they are having to go into staff's inboxes to look for emails. especially now that IT teams are busier than ever due to the pandemic. Lastly, as you all know, emails are often needed to be used as evidence, and if a dispute arises and the lawyers come knocking at the door, you're not able to present those emails. That could certainly be a costly exercise for the company. You'll be probably pretty happy to hear that that is the end of my brief stint before passing over to Ian, who's going to speak about Batchelar McDougall's experience implementing Mail Manager. So Ian, I'll just run the slides here for you. So let's start with, I'll hand over to Ian. You might want to add some commentary to the projects, but obviously let me know when you're keen to move to the next one.
Cool. So we offer full service structural, and we do a lot of very small jobs and a lot of very big jobs. As you can see on the slide there, a lot of high-end residential, commercial, heritage, and then some tent work stuff as well. A lot of supporting and enabling works for bigger commercial projects. And I guess the so what in this context is that we end up collaborating with a whole lot of different people across all of these different projects. So communication management is really important to us. If you want to jump ahead there, Henry?
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's a point I'll talk to a bit more in the next slide as well. So I'd like to say I'm pretty pragmatic. This isn't a sales pitch for me. This is more of a fact, so what, in the context of Mail Manager. I am, as the CEO, accountable to the board and the shareholders for business performance. And one of the key risks I manage quite consciously is communication. And I was thinking about the so what of this the other day, and I jumped in Mail Manager and slid the slider, as you can see in the top little highlight, to the last 3 months. And there's 11,000 emails in and out of our little business in the last 3 months. And that's well over 40 grand a year. So having something that can actually add some value or manage risk to that volume of communication in a company our size is really important. And, I guess that just scales up the bigger the business gets. Another thing that's really important for me is we've done a whole lot of growth in the last few years, and Mail Manager is one of those tools that helps instantly transform. It's not a slow iterative process of building your own rules and systems. It's just there. Onboarding, installing the software and getting comfortable with it happens really quickly. So it tidies up a whole lot of discipline around this stuff almost overnight. And I guess the final point about the business as a whole is we employ a whole lot of really, really, really interesting individuals who've got all sorts of qualifications and experience. They're all very smart. But everyone always has bias about what they think is important when it comes to communication. And so invariably, some choose to follow information, some choose not to. And that's not really a decision you get to make on their behalf. So having a tool that actually catalogs everything that happens is really useful in hindsight, because it allows you to go back and find stuff that you might not have thought was useful at the time. If you jump ahead another one, I guess the next level down, as an organisation, we are consultants. So we are often one of many different organisations or people involved in a project. And on every project, there are multiple threads and channels of communication. And keeping on top of that from a project governance point of view is near on impossible unless you've got some sort of global perspective on what's happening. And Mail Manager lets you do that. It's really useful when someone comes to talk about something. We'll literally just open up the search, select the project folder, and then we can see everything everyone's either sent or received in the last week. And often that'll flag stuff that we wouldn't have discussed or wouldn't have had in the conversation we're about to, because we just wouldn't have known. We're expected to be self-managing. It seems a relatively straightforward point, but there's no one else to lean on for managing this information. So if there's a gap, it's our fault entirely. And the next point, people pay us well, but they expect a really high standard of service. So it's actually not acceptable from my point of view that we would have holes in our communication management. And Mail Manager gives us a really good platform for delivering that high standard of service around communication. And the last point there, we're paid to add value. So if we can do something quicker, which Mail Manager lets us do significantly in a number of areas, why wouldn't we? It adds value to projects. As an organisation, we're dispersed. So we've got offices across the country. We need information access across the country. Mail Manager gives you the ability to do that remotely. It also lets us reach into projects that are being managed in other offices for awareness around communication, like I just said. So it's not like I'm just checking the office here. I can reach in and check communications from any of our offices. And also, our own internal version of that is our business overheads are dispersed, so we can track comms across a whole bunch of different business functions remotely. We do things in the real world, so our team spends a lot of time outside. We need the same level of information remotely as we have in the office, and Henry probably take a few more questions on this. I don't think we've implemented this as well as we could at the moment, but certainly the access is there. And the other point is we operate all over the country, and we're often out for days, weeks, etc. on tasks. So coming home to download or sync with the mothership from an IT point of view isn't always practical. So we need to be able to pump that information back for everyone else to access while we're on the go. And then in terms of size, we're a medium business. So not small enough to just know everything that's going on, but also we're not big enough to have an IT department that sits there managing all of our systems for us. So when we look for software solutions, whether it's as a service or an internal plugin or something like this, it's really important that the support is responsive. And we have had that really responsive service from Mail Manager all the way through. So, that's really useful because any issues get dealt with rapidly. Jump on to the next one. What do we do? And, why does that even matter? Our target market is the higher end of residential builds, certainly. And the so what from that is that projects go on forever sometimes before they even get to consenting. And often we'll end up with staff members moving in and out of project teams, other consultants changing, multiple versions of the same document over a period of several years. And as the next point makes as well, we'll see several different versions of the same thing. And so for us, adding value in that sort of situation is dependent on us being able to easily and accurately recall communication that previously occurred and decisions that were made, and being able to reach back and use the search filter really quickly for 5-6 years of projects and grab every single attachment that was ever sent by an architect, or every single document that was ever sent to council, every response we ever got from council on something, literally in 5-10 seconds of playing with the filters is adding value compared to the way we used to do it and the way a lot of people probably still do it. Making points again around big new buildings. So we've got a target market up to 50 million for commercial new build work, and same points made different ways, time's money, especially in that commercial stuff where invariably clients want stuff done cheaper than you think it can be done for, and they want it done quicker than you think it can be done for. One of the things I've noticed is that there's always communication around the side of decision makers to try and get stuff going quickly or with less cost or find a different way. And often the participants in that communication are unwitting. It might be junior staff where people are reaching around just to try and get things ticking over without formal decision processes, and that can have a real effect on the quality at the end of the project. And with Mail Manager, we just see everything. So you can come in and you can go, right, what's been said in the last week, month, 2 days, whatever, before a key meeting or as a weekly review as part of your project governance. And you can spot when people are trying to pull a shifty on you around the side, which is actually really useful. And you can literally see where someone's spinning 2 or 3 different stories to different people to try and get something across the line. And I guess that's just another version of saying that it helps manage scope creep as well. So being able to go back through that and say, well, look, here's where we agreed to this. Here's where you tried to get agreement on it, but you didn't. And having that really detailed record of that is really important. And, the final point there around assessments, existing buildings and strength, accuracy and timeliness, it's all the same stuff. Especially in those sorts of projects where often we'll get commissioned on a really short notice. If we don't play our part accurately and in a timely manner, opportunities might disappear for clients. And if one person goes away for a week or a day or a family funeral or any reason, and all of a sudden communications are bottlenecking with them, then we can have a real negative effect on the opportunity for a client. So with Mail Manager, we can just reach straight in, have a look at everything that's been set up to that date and carry on with making decisions or acting for the client without worrying about the other person being back. And I think that's probably about it in terms of us and our experience, our reasons. The process itself, onboarding, Henry invited me, he said, because of my pragmatic view of the world. Installing is the easy part. The software is really easy to install. You just follow the instructions and it downloads and then it's there. Making decisions about what you're trying to achieve with it is where you'll get value out of it. We onboarded the software basically in one go over a couple of days. Just did a day for each office, and we included all of our projects and all of our people and all of our proposals straight away. So every single piece of communication we've had that we have recorded somewhere for the last 15 years we've been around in a day was up and running in our system. So magnificent. How you organize it and what your business rules are for filing it, and what governance rules you set for projects around checking in on project communications is where you'll add value to what you're doing. And I guess you can only really answer those sorts of questions by having a good think about your reasons and talking to other people. Certainly, I'd be very happy to sit down with anyone who's interested and talk through how we made it work for us, and spitball ideas about how it might work for you. And I guess that's the second point made already, right? It's not a solution to understanding information management. Projects are typically really easy to get that value out of because, like we did, you just put an emails folder on every project, whether you're storing it on SharePoint or a server or some other medium. What we've had to rack our brains about a bit more is how we get some value out of it for business operations. It's the same concept, but in application, it's sometimes a little bit more complicated. Not all platforms are the same. So we run a mixed storage fleet of server-based and SharePoint-based. And then you throw in some complication with VPN and remote access for people working from home. It all works, but you need to have a good think about what your priorities are and how you're going to set it up. And that takes a bit of time. In terms of delivering training, Mail Manager give you all technical info and training you need. We had a really good experience. Heaps of queries straight away, obviously, not because they're problems, just because new software, getting your head around it. But delivering training that suits the decisions you've made around how you're going to create value out of it in your business is probably the hard part, because you need to have made all those decisions before you design the training. Right, what we got next?
Yeah, just a bit on your setup, I think.
Yeah, and this is us. It's actually really simple. We store our communications in two ways. They're either on the server, on an emails folder, as you can see in that top example, Z emails, and the other place we store it's on SharePoint, and both work equally well. We do all of our proposals on SharePoint because it's collaborative, and we host all of our business files on SharePoint because it's collaborative. And we run all our project files on servers because the file size demand and the proprietary format access demands for different bits of software preclude us from using SharePoint effectively at this point in time. But both are brilliant. But that's literally it. You create a folder and save emails to it via Mail Manager, and access is near instantaneous. So simple, there's not much to say.
Thanks, Ian.
I think that might be it. Yeah, is that the last slide?
Yeah, we might have you come back for some questions.
Yep.
It does appear that we will be getting this out to a lot of people who have had some other emails who are wanting the recording. So I'm sure there'll be people take you up on your offer if to maybe speak directly at some point. For those people that actually have no understanding of Mail Manager, I might just jump back a slide. I'm going off piece slightly here, but yeah, the way emails would get into these is simply through a prompt at the time you're sending an email or actioning an email in Outlook. It's got an algorithm that does a pretty good job. Would you attest to that, Ian, of guessing where an email might go?
It does. It does.
Yeah. So, yeah, we make the filing part easy, and that's effectively what provides such a good search, because you know that everyone in your business, as they work, are just incrementally filing away. So, if anyone hasn't seen, more than happy for me to take you through an actual demonstration. I know many of you would have seen it before, though, but thought I'd just touch on that. Just going back to the onboarding. Installation itself. Well, I guess firstly, if we look at BMC and the way they went about it, it was pretty textbook. You got a senior, CEO, Ian, and well, actually, it didn't start with Ian. So we had one of your staff. Geez, his name escapes me, and it shouldn't.
Chris Mawson, and he was banging on about it for years, and I ignored him because I
Chris
thought,
Mawson.
what on earth would Mail Manager
actually
be useful for?
Yeah, ex-Arab actually. So Chris had used it, and yeah, I caught up with him, and then eventually there was buy-in with the trial, which Ian led from the front. So went through the trial, which many of our clients do. Quite a good way to get a feel for things. So. Yeah, it's almost an implementation light, isn't it, really, Ian? So you'd set up, locations in different places, SharePoint server, and give you an opportunity to have a go with it without having to sort of commit to anything. After that, I guess there's a pretty short and sharp process. Ian's talked quite, I think, very well about the ease in which things are set up. So the install is actually around the hour, 90 minutes. So we create a shared configuration that's deployed, and you can deploy it various ways, whether it's group policy or just individuals running the installer. With respect to training, we really are guided by you, so we don't charge anything additional for training or ongoing support. If you decide you want touch points with all your staff, if you've got a company like Ian's, 35 staff, you might have maybe 3 or 4 training sessions, and enabling everyone to be able to have their own time with us. Others go for the train the trainer, identify a few people within the organization they're going to drive this forward. I think the latter actually happens intrinsically after training. You have your champions that stand out and grab it by the horns, and then we'd present usage back after the first 30 days typically, but we're always there to field questions. Dealing with tricky users. I don't know if you've got any tales there, Ian, with staff that have tried to hide in corners and avoid filing.
Yeah, inevitable, like every system in a workplace. But they're all professionals, so we give them professional feedback about what they need to do.
Diplomatic answer. So quick summary. I feel free to ask any of our clients, if you know them, about Mail Manager. Obviously, Ian's offered his own services to speak to anyone if they're interested in doing that. So if it's okay, Ian, we'll share your contact details with the register.
Absolutely, please do.
We'll also share a guide around the implementation process, and if you do want to book in anything with myself in terms of a demo, everyone's at different stages of Mail Manager and what they know about it. At this point, I might just open the floor up to any questions that you might have for Ian. Okay, Okay, so Richard, does it only save one version of the same email in the vault, or one for each person and the company that gets the email? Yeah, good question. Really important piece of code that the solution has is the fact that we do deduplicate all emails. So as people just work away, if there's a copy that's already filed in the background, Mail Manager just won't save another copy. That's the same if you use, we've got tools to bulk file historic emails. Have you done much of that, Ian? Have you bulk filed any large volumes of old emails?
Only at the individual level. So we didn't have any email archives before.
Okay.
We had some emails saved to file because they were important, but it was all around individuals. It's essentially tipping their Outlook save structure into Mail Manager.
Yeah. So effectively, we do have tools that will bulk file and deduplicate. And as you work, we just, for anyone that's technical on the call or will watching this video retrospectively, we just simply pull a little metadata string out of the Outlook file. That's a date and timestamp to the second, meaning you'll never have the same email filed twice into the same location. So from a holistic point of view, we actually save quite a bit of data rather than having emails sitting amongst people's Outlook accounts. Another question, does the email stay in Outlook Microsoft 365 or does it get deleted when it is filed? Yeah, good question. So you've got options. We encourage that people allow the user to make the decision on what happens to that email in Outlook after filing. Ian, have you allowed that for your users, or are you all locked to the single option for that?
We had that question from our staff, and I had that question myself. And I think ultimately it's just a comfort thing because people will need time to come to trust the new system. So what we've done is we've let people keep it up to now, and at some point in the future we will just switch it over so that it deletes, because it's so easy to grab it out of Mail Manager when it's already saved somewhere. So yeah, heaps of flexibility, and you just make decisions to suit the needs and comfort of the team. Yeah,
I guess just to add to that, to try and explain, again, I'm happy to show anyone this at a later date, but effectively when an email is filed, we give you the option whether that email stays in your inbox or sent items, and we'll just add a little date and timestamp to the subject with a category tag. That's sort of the change-averse people that probably just don't want stuff moved, and that's fine. The brave options going to deleted items, which sort of Ian's highlighted. We've also got an option which effectively creates folders under your inbox that look like your projects. A lot of people work that way anyway, and drag and drop. And that works the same. So you can drag and drop to those. It files a copy centrally and just retains that email of yours in that folder until you want to get rid of it. The last option aggregates all those folders into one folder under your inbox called filed items. So all emails can go in there, sent and received, and then it's up to the user if they want to, delete that every week or however they work. I think for project-based staff, the filed folders seems to be probably the most well used, but again, the options there for people, and we don't get in the way of any Outlook rules and things, so people can continue working their way. Although Ian sort of alluded to the fact that there probably could be, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Ian, but there could be some double handling if people are so stuck in their way, they end up doing their own process and they don't really need to, because you've already got that copy in our searches. Well, I think it makes Outlook search look rather antiquated. Would you support that statement, Ian?
I would support that statement. Yeah.
Another question, is the archive available from iOS, Android? Very good question. We have got our own app. It's about 6 or 9 months old on general release. The app is, because you can't have, very difficult from a technical aspect to have perennial VPN access from a bunch of mobiles to a server. That app is applicable only for Microsoft 365. So for Ian, if he fired up the app, he could access all his SharePoint emails, and you've also got the prompt and the filing aspect. The app's real power is the search. So you could be out in the middle of nowhere and access those emails. We have seen companies that, like Batchelar McDougall, who have decided to utilize SharePoint purely for email, retaining their server. So like you saw with Ian set up, instead of having the emails on the project, they've actually put the emails folder in SharePoint, retain that rest in the server for reasons that Ian pointed out with drawing files and things. That means they have the ability to file and search using our app. That can work in conjunction with the Outlook app. It's accessing the same information. So I hope that's answered your question. Any other questions? Might ask Ian, have you actually had a go at using the app yourself with your SharePoint locations? Yep.
I have, yeah.
Yep. Anyone else before we sort of wrap things up? Looks like that's it. Well, I just personally want to thank you, Ian, for putting some time into the presentation and then now the session. I'm sure we'll get some miles out of it, as they say. It's great to hear from people using the solution rather than me or my colleagues with our rose-tinted lenses on. And I really enjoyed listening to your presentation. It was good to hear different sort of aspects of its utilisation and benefits from a person in your position, and from a governance point of view. That was really good. So, as I say to everyone, we will be getting in touch with the recording, some other information, and the ability, if you want to have a demo, if you haven't seen the solution. And I'll also include, we'll make sure we get Ian's details out there as well. And you can, provided you're okay with that still, Ian, they can get in contact about anything that you've sort of experienced.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, Ian.
No worries.